Kayla starts off this hour in Boston. Hi, Kayla. Welcome to the Ramsey Show.
Hi, Dave. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure. How can George and I help?
So I'm just having trouble with my monthly budget. I've been budgeting for a while, but me and my husband seem to not be on the same page with this one little thing. And it's when say your first paycheck doesn't come until the middle, like 6 days into January. Would you still put the items you're buying, like groceries and stuff, into December? Or would you put that into January, even if you haven't been paid in January yet?
So you're saying you have a line item in your budget and the funds won't be there in time?
No, so we have money that we haven't put it into our savings account yet. We have leftover money and money that we budgeted for. But so my husband's saying when I buy groceries on January 2nd, say, then that should be in the January budget, even though we haven't started we haven't gotten paid in January yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, that's okay. I mean, you can use the money that on your December 31st paycheck, and that's going to fund part of January, right?
Right. So we're just getting confused because we're both doing different things. So I don't know if there was a better way to.
Yeah, you can't both do different things. That right there tells me there's a bunch of breakdown. You don't have two budgets. You have one.
Right, and we have the same every dollar account. So when we're putting things in, it's just getting messed up, and I just wanted your help to get us on the same page because we both love you. So
yeah, well, we appreciate that. So number one, whatever we do, we both have to be doing it. Both of you doing two different game plans is going to screw up the math, as you probably already discovered. And that's going to cause a bigger fight than actually. Yeah, that's going to be a bigger fight than anything else you do. So, but the so the way we did it is. It's okay to set up January's budget and have some leftover money from December to fund until the first check comes in January. But January, if you buy food on January 2nd, that should show up in January's budget. It should show up on the 2nd that you bought food. Now, where did the money come from? Well, there's money in your food envelope left over because you knew you weren't going to get a check when you did your December budget, and so you had money to fund into the first week of January. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's what my husband was saying, but I was overcomplicating things, I think.
Yeah. So in your case, if you said, the problem is that everything is set up on a monthly basis. If you were just running it week by week, or running it not counting the first of the month, because you're not getting paid 1st and 15th, that wouldn't be unusual. But the every dollar software doesn't run that way, and it makes it really hard to keep up with. It really runs on the calendar, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's what we use. We use every dollar.
Yeah, so you said that. So that's good. Thank you. And it's good. It's good software. It's very robust. It does the job. But yeah, you've got to figure out a way to cover it. Kind of like if you got paid at the first of the month, but your cable bill comes towards the middle before the second check comes. Then you wait to pay the cable bill until out of the second check. You don't pay it out of the first check because it's right up there on it.
Right.
Make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, that's a really good question. Here's what's really important about it. The details of the answer don't matter. What matters is two things. One is you're actually freaking using a budget. That is huge. That's huge. And the second thing is that you are engaging. You're engaging in your relationship, and you're doing it with your husband. Otherwise, the fact if you had not had this conflict because you either weren't doing a budget or you weren't doing it together and bumping into each other, that would be a bigger danger sign than the nuances of this answer.
It's almost semantics, and the fact that you guys are on the same page, both doing one budget together, willing to do it, that's huge. But Dave, we run into this occasionally, and it comes down to having a little buffer. You know, we're not saying with zero-based budget doesn't mean you have $0 in your bank account every month.
That's a good point too.
And so having a little buffer in there can really help. Some people like to get a month ahead. If that's something that you can do, and that gives you some peace to say, hey, we've got $2,000 in our checking account. This is if you're later on in the baby steps, but that can sometimes help couples get over the idea of we're going to run out of money mid-month.
Yeah, what you do need to set is some kind of a buffer and just make that your baseline. We don't go below that in the checking account. except in dire situations. But I mean, at least keep like $100 in there. You do not want to run the checking account on zero balance.
You don't want to overdraft because
you're going to be run down to zero all the time. You're going to bump into stuff. That's not good. So you need to keep some kind of a buffer in there, and that's your baseline. And you never go below that. You treat that like that's zero. If it's $100 or $50 or $1,000, whatever it is. We used to in the old days. That's 1,000 years ago. We keep 1,000 in there at least, because that got free checking if you left $1,000 in there. I don't even know what it does now. I don't keep up with it that close in terms of what's free. I've got so many bank accounts and so many things here now. But I mean, and we keep a lot more than 1,000 in checking these days. But the point being that we that was our baseline. That was the floor, so to speak. We wouldn't get down below that. Very, very good question. That's very important. Thank you for joining us. Emily is in Portland, Maine. Emily, I'm not going to get to you. I looked up and saw the clock. I'm going to bring you back up a little while. So, George, what we've learned, this budget thing and this every dollar thing is really important, because we've learned in almost 10,000 people, over 7,000 families going through Financial Peace University, the highest correlating behavior with success. Meaning, if you said, Dave, tell me one behavior that's going to cause me to become successful doing the things in Financial Peace University, meaning getting out of debt, being generous, becoming wealthy, the number one thing that we see, and there's not even a close second, is couples doing a zero-based budget the way we teach together, using every dollar.
Yeah.
The ones that do that, their results are head and shoulders above everybody else. They're like, well, I'm going to take the class, and I'm going to ish this and ish that.
We don't really do a budget. And then you wonder why.
I kind of got it in my head. Or I do a budget, but it's not a zero-based. Or I'm not using the Every Dollar app because I don't like that. Your results are like 1/10 of the people that actually do that one thing properly. So her question is really vital.
Yeah, great question. On paper, on purpose.